This may not work. I'm gonna try and create a virtual camera so I can like zoom in on my head and make it look like I'm less in a circus tent right now. Uh, Depends which platform. If you want to link to YouTube, I think it's all one word. Oh, two words. Thanks for checking. Solid. Yeah, solid. I can chop up some stuff for tick and talk.
Okay, walk me through what I'm doing here as to, okay, I accepted the link, all that stuff. So then do I need to go live on my own channel? You doing anything overlay setups or anything like that? Okay. Here. Let's see, it's gonna be 3.
From within the maw, a faint, iridescent glow pulses, hinting at
It's a studio singular, if you don't mind correcting that, but other than that, perfect. Just because it's the domain as well.
And I'm trying to build a setup here on Streamlabs real quick. Uh, just remember, trying to remember how I usually just build off of what I already had. So I'm trying to remember what kind of capture I need to go to pull Discord.
Can confirm I work in technology, and I also hate it.
Okay. Mead halls where we're at, right? Okay. All right, got that. And just need to do an audio capture off of my mic. Right. See. Okay. I think I should be good.
Stupid question. I'm definitely using this microphone, right? Like you can hear.
It sounds clean.
Okay.
Yeah.
Discord is telling me my webcam is my mic right now, but I find that hard to believe. No, I don't. That's why I'm surprised.
All right. Are you live on your end, Fargrim? Okay. Okay. I think I'm ready to roll.
All right. You guys ready?
Ready as I'm gonna be.
All right. So, hello and welcome everybody to the last DM Q&A of the year. I'm here with Tall, aka Nullfish from Overseer Studios, and uh, our good friend DM Silver from Tales of Wood or Not here on Twitch and YouTube. And you can find Overseer Studios also on Overseer Studio on YouTube and TikTok. All right, gentlemen, let's get started. Um, so since there's two of you and I will answer last, we'll go. Um, we'll just mix it up as we go. First question being, what is your rule of thumb when it comes to world building?
I can take that one. I do. I think we talked before, but I do like a lot of improv type stuff. Um, One of the things, like I'm a big fan of Sly Flourish. So like shout out to Sly Flourish. I have no affiliate with him, but I just admire everything he does. Um, and Yeah, like the 8 lazy DM steps, I think is like the best way to just like start with a world. Just like note some notable places, some plot hooks, some some secrets, some things of that nature, and just like let the players go wild. I'm a big fan of like letting players like invent things, and then we sort of like riff on that and try and find places for them live. Um, yeah, that's kind of my thing. It's like the 8 steps, I'd say, is like the TLDR answer.
Mine would be quite a bit different because I'm kind of in a different. I came at D&D from a different angle. We'll put it that way. I actually started the world that I run my games through is something I actually started creating about 2003, 2004, when I was in college. I'm also the old man of the group, so it's I started building a world in the thralls of the Lord of the Rings movies coming out, and everybody like being really excited about fantasy for like it was legitimate for the first time that there was something to see that was high production value and stuff. And so I got really excited about fantasy. I'd always been Greek mythology and things like that, but I started building a board game, and then I started writing stories, short stories, trying to write novels and stuff in my spare time, in amongst going to classes and uh, also going through grad school and everything like that afterwards. So that was where I started my world building. I'm still working with that world here 20 plus years later. So there's a good amount of improv. I 100% like agree with Tom on that one as to you need to have, especially with D&D, there's got to be some flexibility to, you know, number one, your players getting to play a part in that world creating so that they have ownership, but then also the you need to pivot sometimes. You need to be able to have that flexibility of there needs to be an armorer in this town, or there needs to be a tavern in this tiny town that maybe you didn't really think you wanted to have one there, but it's like I need a place for people to sleep other than the street tonight, so it's gonna be there. uh, I'm probably stricter than a lot as to like I go overboard with my world building. That it's like you want to know what trade is coming in and out of this town? Yeah, I got a list of imports exports. When I build a town, I have these are the factions that operate out of this town. Even if it's just a town we're passing through, I try and build a lot of that um, because it helps me flavor things. But it's finding that balance between the prep and the improv that is a complete necessity to not lose your mind as a DM when running with a group of 6 squirrels that could take things in all sorts of different directions. That is beautiful and fun, and it's super exciting because you get to be surprised, but at the same note, still trying to keep some sort of tie into where you're going to go. You need to have some structure, but also the ability to pivot on that improv. So, um, I guess that would be my approach on the world building is a pseudo balance between the two.
How do you remember it all? Like, where do you keep it all?
I got a really long Word document and a lot of notebooks, spiral notebooks laying around. Slowly trying to compile the spiral notebooks into an online Word document that I can go and quickly search and research. And it's a struggle some days. It's gotten a lot bigger over the 4 years we've been running our campaign, that it has made it a lot harder to keep it all straight in my head than it used to be.
What about you, Fargo?
Those are really good answers. Well, firstly, like I I come up with the story, and then I'm just like, okay, I need places for faces. So I make the map, and then I build kind of my roadmap of my story from there. But I have to like see it to believe it in a sense. Uh, so I'm telling the story as I'm building the world and I'm breathing life. Like, cool, they need a town over here because there's a cave over there. That's a good mission spot. Or um, but there's always that the characters' backstories that come into my world building. That is a crucial spine of my story is their backstories because I weave that shit in there to give them that like third dimension because they already breathe in that third dimension because they're playing the character. But having that like, oh, the DM hears me and sees me as my character. In this world it hears me and sees me as my character. That sort of like connection to the game really engages players, in my opinion, especially for like a plot hook. But yeah, next question: what does your session zeros entail?
I'll go first on this one just because my answer will be relatively brief. I haven't had to do a session zero in a long, long time at this point. So um, I have been running the same campaign for 4.5 years. And that was it. This is my first campaign that I ever DM'd. I did actually start two side by side because I had too many players interested in my first attempt to DMing. So I decided glutton for punishment. I'll run a Saturday night and a Sunday night session every week. Never done this before. This will work out great. So we did session zero. I'd read a lot on that, but it was a brand new DM trying to do a session zero. So I'm like, kind of looking at my players. I'm like, what am I supposed to be doing? I don't really know what this is other than let's get our red flags out there. Is there any content that you guys don't want to get into? How are we going to handle certain things? Get a general vibe for, hey, do you guys need some lore background to help you finish fleshing out characters? Is there um, anything in particular? Like, our game has mutated so much from where it started as a voice only Discord game with a VTT, and now we do streaming. So we have slowly just, there's almost like a session zero perpetually out there that it's like, okay, we may be going into different territory. Let's go and address this before we go there. But yeah, I haven't had the opportunity, or I guess would be one way to put it, on not having an opportunity to run a session zero in quite a while because just been running this one game that we've done one mini series in the middle of that, but it was with the same players. So a lot of the player checkoffs for a session zero were already taken care of, and we were playing the same world. So again, that stuff was already taken care of. So hopefully you guys have more interesting answers to that.
I personally know. I do a lot of that same stuff. It's evolved over the years, honestly. I have a knack for like introducing a lot of new people to the hobby, right? And so in addition to like trying to like flavor people's backstories and try to like fit them into the world and like try to get them hooked into the adventure, like because I've dealt also with players who are just like, oh, why I'm adventuring? I'm like, why are you playing? Like, what's the point, you know? So it's like my session zero has also been like an evolution of like, you know, trying to explain the rules, like the relevant rules, going over people's character sheets. So it's almost like session zero for me, in addition to being like boundaries, things of that nature, it's also like kind of like a briefer of the rules, like a one pager of like, here's your character, right? Like here's what your character can do. How do you want to play into that? And kind of like doing like one-on-ones with people to like figure that out. Um, which I enjoy. I enjoy a lot, right? Like, because one, I fell in love with the hobby, and someone sat down with me and taught me things, and like, if I can reciprocate that in any way, it's like the thing I like, right? Um, so yeah, session zero is like a rules overview in addition to like flavoring the backgrounds.
That's pretty cool. For me, I treat session zero almost like I treat a session one. Um, I weeks before I get with the players, discuss who they are, what they're playing, their entire backstory, how I can tie it into my world. Um, and then I'll set the scene and we'll play for a little bit, and then we'll freeze at a moment for a very good plot hook. Where they're like, "Oh, but wait, I want to do," and then I'll be like, "Sopranos." Credits. See you next week. Um, to draw them in like that, I still do that dramatic cliffhanger for some episodes. I do get cussed out still by my players, but it's completely worth it.
Do you have that like cliffhanger like planned ahead of time? Like, do you know, or does it like come kind of come organically?
50-50. Like, if I know that there's a right moment where I can do that, I definitely will. But if I have it already planned out and it works, and it works, it's a special, like, golden word.
Yeah.
Cause, uh, yeah, no. I like to mess with my players. I will just say that. In a good way.
How big are how big are your groups usually? I know you said Silver, like you have 6 players like right now, which I find to be a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, we started with 6 players. That's been our most of the time. We've tried to stick to that. We're actually running a really weird arc of our campaign right now that, um, without getting into the details of the weirdness of it, but one of our party members got removed from his body and is stuck in another plane. So we are playing his storyline with people he's meeting there. And so people are playing alts, and so we're working slightly smaller groups so we can cover more territory. But yeah, typically we've been 5, 6. We usually don't go smaller than that up until here just recently. But we've done some other special sessions that have been a little bit smaller. I don't have a whole lot of experience outside of the 6 to really go and say like, oh yeah, I really think it'd be better to do 4, or I really crazy and I want to do 8, and we'll count. But combat takes 3 weeks to get through.
Uh-huh. Yep. Yeah. I was gonna say I'm used to like the 6, 8 range right now, which I know is like absurd. I have to like modify a lot of encounters with the how difficult they are. Or I have to make up stuff as they're going along, like shit, they got through this way too quickly. What about you,
Yeah,
partner?
it easily goes one way or the other. It's the
Always.
this is a slog, or it's a that was it. My party will know this as to that was supposed to be an adult white dragon. This was the first dragon fight. 3 turns.
Yep.
Um, really, this come on.
Yeah. For party size, the biggest I've had was 14. Well, like
Christ.
14 players at one time. I would
One
DM
table.
3 times a week. I did
That
that
was
for
one table.
yeah, one campaign, which is the same one I'm doing right now. It's a Sengoku feudal Asian used to be MMO. Now there's only 4 players, which is nice. 4 players, I will take all day. But yeah, next question. Summaries of our campaigns, current campaigns. Um,
I got the most boring answer. I'm not running anything right now. I know that's weird, but I'm
boo.
just so focused on the software right now that I'm just like kind of had to put it to the side. I was running a group game, but I mostly do like one shots because again, like I introduced like a bunch of new people. So the last thing I ran, as boring as it is, not really boring. I like the module, but a wild sheep chase is always like just a fun little bat around module to like introduce people to D&D.
Yeah, so as I've stated, been running our current storyline has been going for 4.5 years. And before you immediately put the typical D&D scheduling to that 4.5 years, I really just move slow. I really make them earn that milestone leveling. We have played a lot of sessions. We are easily, I think we're on our book 4 of the stream, and that has been about 25 sessions per book. So we're between 100 and probably around 135 sessions in.
Holy fuck.
Level 12, we started at 1. Um, so it's now the caveat to that is my party loves the role play end. Combat is definitely the minimal part of what we do. So finding those moments that really reach that milestone element to me is we don't get there very often because we really get sucked into just the drama of people talking to each other. That we'll just we actually, it was a running joke the first year of our campaign on how so little time had passed in the story because they just talked and talked and talked, and it's like, yeah, guys, I think less time passed in the story than we played tonight. So we somehow lost time somewhere. We've done better than that over lately, but I guess the overarching campaign has just been, like any D&D party of 6 strangers all thrown together. Didn't throw them in a tavern. I didn't do that one. I try and be unique. Running my first campaigns, I go, no, we won't meet in a tavern. That's too cliche. So I put them all on a boat and sunk the ship in the first session, and almost watched one of my players drown as a level 1 with no athleticism. That was pretty rough, but they've just kind of picked up things here and there, bounced around different things, but overarching storyline has really become a working a lot with a dream realm, dream plane, that they are working against this one entity that trapped them in this dream plane for a while. They got out. They kind of made it their mission that they're going to make sure that this guy doesn't do this to anybody else. They're just now starting to figure out who this figure is. I play a lot of mystery, a lot of intrigue, and a lot of them trying to figure out what the hell's going on. Probably to the point that they get frustrated with me from time to time. But it's currently where we're at with, as I mentioned before, we have one guy who is stuck back in that dream plane again. Whole calamity of heirs got there. One of the party members blew up an religious artifact that got lodged in his body with somebody else's soul in it. Got 2 souls in one body. He actually, really, really awesome player. Shout out to Dustin out there. Was game for playing the other soul for an entire year of our game, with nobody else knowing it, and then ripped everybody's hearts out at the end when he revealed that it wasn't him the whole time, and his soul's been trapped someplace else, and he booped out and joined the enemy at the end of our last book. So now as we're playing through book 4, we are playing through him stuck in the dream realm while the other players were checking in with them from time to time to see, number one, how they're dealing with the fact that he's gone, but then also how are they going to try and draw him, like get him back, or even figure out that he's exists somewhere and that he's not dead. Because the party's very split on that decision. On a few of them are certain, are my character would 100% believe he's gone, and so they're not going to make any efforts to try and save him because he's gone. Um, but I guess the one other element I'd throw out there as to explaining my current campaign is it's a very, very heavy religion campaign. I run a lot of the pantheon of 6 gods are very, very key. We run a piety system, custom rules that built up very vaguely reminiscent of the piety rules that Wizards put out in the Theros book. They're actually quite a bit different from that, but there's some similarities that we have kind of tweaked together. Involves a lot of players trying to do things to attempt to gain favor with their gods. Almost all of my players are playing characters that have some affiliation with one of the gods, even though they are not, like, I don't have any paladins, I have no clerics, I don't have anybody that's outright playing a religious character. They're just playing, hey, yeah, but I went to church as a kid type deal. And I believe the fire god is the god, so that's the guy that I'm going to follow. Um, but yeah, it makes for some fun elements, and it puts everybody into a. It's still optional, but a lot of people have really leaned into it and had a lot of fun with it. So it's fun. There's been some really interesting things, and there'll be more interesting things in the future. So
That kind of answered some other questions I had too, like what sort of religious systems and things like that. In my world, I have a religious conflict with the original creator god of the world. Split the planet, causing Pangea because he was pissed off with his creations going astray. And then the celestial dragons came out of a portal and tried to stop him and exiled him into shards. Years later, a Death Knight came out. Well, pretty much did it. Anakin heard the echoes of the shard and killed one of the dragons. It started the Black Crusades. The heroes of that age killed him, and then now they, after that, they decided to become arising gods because the celestial dragons couldn't do this, like couldn't kill the Death Knight. So the past 25 years they become false gods, creating an army. So there's a whole lot of religious conflict.
I love me some religious conflict.
Right? A little bit of holy war. What about you,
That's
Tom?
been a.
Oh, sorry, you were saying?
Oh, I was just gonna say that's actually been one thing that we ran into here with our campaign recently is the realization that there's other godlike beings before the gods that everybody recognizes as being the gods, and they have a Genesis story, and that's what everybody's taught growing up. And then it's like, hey, we ran into this other guy, and he says he's older than you. What's going on with this? That's been something we're starting to explore with ours as well.
You're good to go.
I'm good. Yeah, I got nothing else.
Oh, okay.
Love me a bit of holy war.
Uh, cool. What was the most chaotic player decision you've had in a session?
feel like I'm the chaos. Being honest, it's not the one that's the most chaotic, but I'll say it's my favorite moment. Um, I was running a module, or not a, yeah, I was running a module, and the first fight scene, I'm like trying to get the players like engaged with like the one person that like walks through the tavern doors, right? Um, and this person is, disguised, cloaked, or whatever, and just like my wife, just her first time playing D&D ever, just completely just like rips his hood off, and I'm sitting there just like, okay, so this revealed a lot. Like we just skipped like 4 pages of what I had planned here, dialogue, everything. I guess we're just gonna just immediately start combat, and like I had to like figure out a way around everything. And so like it's kind of what got me into like improvisation. I'm like, if this is the way like my campaigns are gonna go, and people are just gonna do whatever the hell they want, I'm just gonna learn how to improv really good. Um, and I remember talking to her afterwards too, and like laughing about it. I'm like, you weren't supposed to do that. You can legally, you can do that, but I was not planning for that at all. Um, so I don't know, it just made me like one of my most memorable, I'd say.
Yeah, I don't know if this would be the most chaotic, but it's probably been the most impactful strange decision, or at least to me, it was something I was not prepared for and had to improv and pivot on a dime. So we do a Halloween session every year, trying to do something a little bit extra spooky on my side as the DM. And the first one we ever did was going for like a haunted house element. So my party went and they got invited over to this lady's house, and she goes and puts you up for the night, give you a meal in exchange for you telling her stories about your adventures. And she's this little old lady confined to a wheelchair. She doesn't get out much. She just really wants to hear these stories, and she's just this kindly old lady. You should go over. So yeah, wrench them into the idea of, hey, they're going to go do this storyline. Well, anyway, within the storyline, they end up with this. Well, we got to take care of these ghosts. These ghosts start popping up, and they're strange spirits that they've ran into. And um, I went with implementing. I don't know if any of you guys ever got into watching Supernatural, but the concept in there, like of having an anchor that a ghost is tied to this world through an object, and so you have to destroy the object in order to release their soul and let them pass on. And so they had to go around this house and find these anchors, find what are these things that are tying these ghosts to this house, because they don't make sense why they're here. And one of the things they find is this necklace, and it's a necklace, the air god or air goddess. And they're like, okay, the one player who's the very pragmatic, very conspiracy theory, and yes, he's in chat now. So
I see that.
Conrad, you're getting called out here. So um so he goes and is like, we got to destroy this necklace. And it's like, what? It's this holy artifact. It's like, but we have to destroy it. And so he attempts to dispel magic on this holy artifact. And I'm like, no, no, that's not gonna just like be. You can just go dispel a artifact level item with just a simple dispel magic at your level. And it's like, this is so. It's gonna partially work. Give you a little bit, but not the whole thing. And so it explodes. And this is what results in a piece of the gemstone gets embedded in our one party member's abdomen, and he ends up with the second soul. The soul that they're trying to release is now trapped in their friend, and they don't know this for 2.5 years that we played that under the table for 2.5 years that this was there. And a year and a half before we got the swap that he swapped out to one's in control versus the other, which was a whole other thing. But it's like, we've developed this has ended up being like this huge major storyline, major part of our overall campaign. And um it all started out of this. I want to dispel magic. I want to dispel the ghost out of this gemstone of this necklace. And I'm like, never expected them to do that. That was not how I expected them to handle things, and it has turned into so much better than anything I would have done with that gemstone to start with.
Oh, that's awesome.
What's your most chaotic?
I have a couple moments like players having sex on top of zombies. Uh, yeah, another one where a player stuck his head through a portal into the Shadowfell. The same player in a different campaign walked into another portal into an alien breeding nest that I had in my sci-fi campaign. That was also pretty out of this world, but mostly just giving a player a plasma rifle was pretty chaotic.
I hate to ask, custom statted plasma rifle? Where do you find a plasma rifle? I guess sci-fi. Never mind. I never mind. I'm like somewhere my head was stuck in
Oh,
like feudal
antimatter.
somewhere
Oh, what's up, Velvet?
medieval.
Not much. How's it hanging, boys?
Not much.
Well,
Would you like to join? Doing a little bit of a Q&A.
Oh, did I just accidentally walk into this?
Yeah.
best time.
So, best time. What is the
Oh,
most...
you know what? Yeah, let's go.
Okay. What's the most chaotic player moment you had? Or memorable?
Most chaotic player moments or the most memorable? I don't remember the specifics, but I think for me as a DM, it's typically when a player does something that is just so genius that or just something I could not have possibly thought of, that I have to take a moment, look at kind of all my notes and go, all right, guys, I need 5 minutes because I'm about to throw out, I don't know, 3 weeks worth of material. We're just going to kind of fly by the hand of God. I've had like 2 instances in my entire time DMing where like I've had to be like, yep, nope, we're gonna take 5 minutes. I got to throw all this stuff out. We're gonna burn down this skeleton, and we're gonna make a new one together.
Right now.
Been there a few times.
Oh, man. That was a good answer. So I guess we just answered. The last question was, "What is a summary of your current campaign?" Or I know that was the one we just asked, but I'm actually curious because I know you were showing me what you were cooking in Foundry a little days back.
Yeah. So I am currently running a campaign based on a world that had been completely separated for like 1,000 years. They lived life as normally, but a bunch of stuff happened, and essentially the hook for the players is like the place was known for having this overwhelmingly large Fae population. And when the players get there, they come there from the Adventuring Guild, and it's a little bit of investigative, it's a little bit of diplomatic relations. It's also a little bit of, I mean, they're adventurers. They're going to do a little adventuring on the side. But when they get there, they're expecting to meet a bunch of Fae, because that's supposed to be the people in charge. And instead, it's just like a bunch of regular dudes, and that's like weird. And they go, okay, well, when do we meet the Everlight? They're supposed to be here. And they're like, who the hell are you talking about? And so they have to ask themselves, okay, in the last 1,000 years, there's a whole group of people missing. What the hell happened here? And that's pretty much the hook. Essentially, right now in the campaign, we're getting to the point where it's like the Attack on Titan. Like we're getting to the basement episode. They see it. They know it's there. They know it's gonna be happening. We're gonna hit them with a bunch of answers. We got like 5 or 6 more days of in-game stuff happening before we get there. And every day counts because I'm doing like right now. I'm doing like everyone who they've met. When I started this game, I set them off as being the most important people in the room. Like the very first session, they went to go have a party. They met all of the big players, like right off the bat. It was so much so that they were like, and I record my game so my players can listen back to it. But so much so they're just like, I don't remember half of these people, but everyone wanted to talk to us. Everyone was so happy to talk to us because again, they're the first people who stepped out of this on this continent from the outside in like the last thousand years. They are the most important people in the room, and and so they made some friends, they made some enemies, but I've been keeping track of everything from the start, and we're getting to the part where things are starting to pay dividends. The people they chose to interact with, the people that they chose to help, all of these are starting to compound into what is essentially going to be the climax of this first portion of our game. And then we're going to start heading in. We'll have a direct line towards the end of the game. But they're going to be some party crashers, and they're going to break into this fancy dude's house who doesn't really like them because he got answers.
That's incredible. I knew you were cooking with fucking fire,
I gotta
dude.
at some point I got to show you my intrigue map because I've been mapping it out, and it's a time.
What do you guys use? EXP or Milestone?
All milestone on my end.
I
I think
use
that's mostly a byproduct of the being role play heavy and combat light.
I actually do a combination of the two. Because it depends. I usually kind of set things in like certain arcs, right? The goal is that they'll hit the end of this by this time, or at least ideally they should. Because I always think about the beginning and the beginning and the ending, and we just kind of play wibbly wobbly in the middle. But I'm always open to like changing. I just have like a kind of a frame of reference of where I kind of want them to be around. Between then, it's a combination of milestone, and if I feel like honestly they've earned it through enough combats because that's kind of what the story dictated, I kind of go, you know what? All right, go ahead and level up, guys. Just whatever feels appropriate, but mostly milestone leans heavily towards milestone. But if we're not doing, if a lot of stuff isn't happening, and it's okay, yeah, you guys earned it. You guys, whoop some ass.
I also do both EXP and Milestone. It helps a lot. Like, there's also little things under the table that I keep track of too, like how well they've been role playing, um, different how different interactions, things like that. Um, but yeah, I like the combination of both, and I like the use of Milestone slightly better than EXP. But I like both. I like the hybrid.
I assume the question was XP or milestone.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, milestone all the way. I can't keep track of it. I'm tracking enough stuff. I don't need to track more stuff. So I usually just default to. Yeah, you defeated that guy. It's like, level up, go for it. You've earned it. Way to go, champ.
I'm waiting to the point where I feel like maybe it's time, and I'll be like, "All right, guys, we're gonna take a break. I'm gonna open up a couple of goats out back, and we'll see what the intestines say."
I like that. What do you enjoy most about being a DM?
I can take that one. Um, I was always like not a theater person, not like a performer, not any of that stuff, right? Barely could hold myself together with public speaking. Um, and everything like I'm very analytical, right? Like very, I can program the hell out of things, like very black and white. Um, but what I like about being a GM or just playing tabletop games in general is just like I get to be all these different people, and it's almost like a no shame environment. It's like everyone's kind of just figuring it out as you go. I think community being just very open as well is just very, it's embracing. Specifically, what I like about GMing more than a player is like I think it scratches like that ADHD mind of mine, where it's like instead of like focusing on like one player and like this is their story and this is what they are and this is their voice and backstories and like yeah, you can do all sorts of like branches and stuff with the character, but what I like more about a DM is like I can just like come up with stuff and then I'm like now I'm this guy or now I'm this character or now I'm this person or now I'm playing the role of this. And I sort of like that. I also like just I don't know. You all were talking like a lot about like otherworldly, like godly type, holy war type stuff, and I'm like, I find myself like almost on like the opposite spectrum. Like I find people just so incredibly interesting that like I love the politics of things. So I like just making connections like that. It's like, um, so yeah, it's like it scratches that like I never, like I said, I never was a theater nerd, but like I get to be a theater nerd at 35, and that's fun to me. I've only recently started like world building too, so I gotta say that's been fun too. Just coming up with places. Like I've always drawn stuff as a kid, and like I don't know, I never thought it was anything serious. And like now that I'm like doing it more and more and more, and I've been in the hobby for like 8 or 9 years, it's like some of the stuff is like slowly filling in. I'm like maybe I could do something with this. Like I actually just recently read the Savage World rules, and I'm like getting into like Savage Worlds, and I'm like, damn, my world would be cool with Savage Worlds because then I can just invent stuff. It's not like fitted into another system, right? It's like it's my own system, which I find kind of cool too. Um, yeah, that's my yap.
That was a good enough. Yep, I actually forgot the question. I just loved what you said though. That was great.
What do you like about being a GM?
My favorite thing about being a GM is really creating these like intricate stories. My biggest problem is trying to keep my mouth shut. Um, it's like having all of these plans, like they're working together, and it's like everything's going great. Getting like the end of a session with a cliffhanger, and a player literally screams, "Oh shit!" That is, there's nothing like that. There's a certain magic. Like it's like a hit, and I live for it. We just had two sessions of that like back to back, and then I rode that high for like for the next couple of days. I could not stop talking about my game to like a bunch of strangers, and I was just like, "What is this?" Um, because it was just it hits so good. Like that's my favorite. It's also my worst thing because as like my ADHD makes it so that I am terrible at keeping secrets. I'll be like, "Do you really want to know?" Because I'll tell you, but we can't go back after that. And part of me is just like I will be the devil, and just be like, I could tell you. I really can. My players are angels though. They always say like, don't tell me. I'm like, all right. Inside, I am dying. I am struggling to keep it together, bro. Every second we go, it gets a little bit harder.
Piggyback on that a little bit because definitely that would be one of the two things that I would pick as my favorite things of being a DM is definitely those moments where you've been planning all this, you've been seeding the story, putting these things out there, and either the aha moment where one of those players just finally puts that shit together, or the that cliffhanger reveal of, hey, this is what's really been going on, and it's like I knew something was going on, but nobody put it together. But it was close enough that nobody's like broken by it, but that they're just in awe of it. That's definitely. And that was not going to be my first answer, so I love that you brought that up because I'm like, oh yeah, that high. There's not much that competes with that. My secondary one would just be setting things up with getting to kind of like set the stage for something and then watching the players make it their own. Just like, here, go in this setting. And then just getting to sit back as DM and be like, I don't do anything for the next 45 minutes because they're running. And it's beautiful. It's just really fun to watch and really entertaining those are some of my favorite sessions. Just kind of sit back and let them entertain me for a once. So,
I think it's most rewarding just being able to tell a story and to have people involved in that. That in and of itself is like honestly being heard and trusted, which is like a different type of intimacy that it's hard to find, especially among like good friends. That I is a different high. I if you we if we're talking about that aspect, but I also like being able to work on something creative. And honestly, I think it's better than video games in my opinion. Like that's I enjoy better than video games is making my own fucking game at this point. And being able to stream that and showing it with other people too is just like sharing a pie that you made, like sharing food that you cooked. Just like enjoy this meal. We have enough for everybody. Um, that's how I feel about DMing, and I I have to say I feel like I am a working mediocre DM. I wouldn't say I'm good or great. I'd say about average or mediocre ogre over here. But one session a week is one session of getting better. That's the way I look at it. Oh, we got our first question in chat. If what's the biggest piece of plot that you never got to use because your players went on a different path or circumvented it?
you're fishing, Conrad. You're fishing.
Thank you, Emerald Bug Baron.
I mostly run modules. I'm having a hard time with this one. Mostly, I'm just relieved when like people fail a lockpicking check and I can't like. It's like, oh, good. Now I don't have to make up a room. Like I'm kind of boring like that though. You guys are definitely outshining me in terms of like writing your own stuff.
I don't know if I've ever actually abandoned a piece of plot. You just find a different way to feed it in. Just we'll circle around. We'll get to it some other way, or that's a story for a different group. Like content, like prep work that has been avoided. Yeah, there's definitely elements of that where built an encounter, and like we were talking about, was a couple of us had that earlier, as to um, my players all know that I was pretty hurt for several weeks on. I put them in place of, hey, here's this ancient tower, and it's piece of history sitting out here on a hillside. Oh, there's a bunch of enemies off in the distance. It's a good place to hide. And no way, no how. I made my own grave on it. That I'd set them up with a really really awful possessed house the night before in their travels. So they weren't trusting me at that point, and they're like, "No, we're not going in the tower. That's clearly a bad idea." And that was the next 3 sessions, was all them going in this tower, going through this tower, the fighting a Bahir in the tower that is like, oh, I would love to want to run a Bahir. Bahirs just sound really really cool. I want to run this. It's like, so I built this whole mine complex, that all these maps, all this stuff, all this prep ready to go. And I'm like, no, we're not going to the tower. Doesn't matter what I offered to them to try and put them in a position of, do you really not want to go in the tower? This might be a good idea. And yeah, just go fight the enemy on the plains, and we're not going in that tower. And they tried to throw me a bone afterwards. I'm like, well, I'm really sorry that that was like all this prep work and stuff. We can go back to the tower. But no, no, no. I'm dedicated to the story. The tower's gone. It's okay. It will kill somebody else later on down the road.
I can't remember the biggest. I can't remember like the biggest thing of plot, but in the campaign I'm running recently, the players just completely avoided a fight because they ended up. So I mentioned before how they meet like a bunch of these like big wigs. Well, one of them is this guy who he just loves to fight. He's part of this. He's part of this like noble group. It's like just a coalition of a couple of nobles, and all vying for legitimacy of their own line to being like the leader of like this city. Except for this dude. This dude just saw a bunch of nobles fighting. He's like, I want some of that, and was like, I'm gonna get in there myself. And he was just a problem in general. But they like, after everything's settled, they're like, hey, how about you join the team? He's like, hell yeah, I get to fight more. But this dude has like a illegal fighting arena outside of town, where you can go kill real people. Players got involved, and then he was like, "Hey, like," and he's like, everyone has like is wearing masks. The whole point is that like everyone's supposed to be anonymous there. The players, show off, and he's like, "Those guys, I want to fight those guys," and they're just like it's like that meme where they're just like, "Oh, all right, Alan, we are so fucked," to each other. And they took the entire session to come up with a plan, just like a series of intricate events to avoid fighting this man. And I had everything ready. I bought a map. I was like, oh, we're gonna do this. I had everything all gussied up, pretty. And they're like, that is the last thing we are going to do, sir. And I gave it to them because like it was a damn good plan, and they had some damn good rolls. Um, completely circumvented a ton of stuff that I wanted to do with that, and a bunch of information that they were going to learn, which sucks. But going back to what Silver Saraph said, taking that and then repurposing it. So I took I took some of those really good roles and went like, hey, you find this, and was able to kind of bring in some of the stuff that I wanted, not all of it, but it was definitely put a twist on what I was planning initially.
Might be muted, Fargo.
Oh man. Luckily, I didn't have any events like that happen in this current campaign. Last campaign, I had players use AoEs in dungeons, and they level up faster, and I was like, "Fuck, dude! Now I have to level up the other half of the party to try to catch up." So that I did have to lose some things and then rework to find a loophole. But um, no, that's pretty much it on my end.
We got another chat question.
Yeah. What's some of your personal favorite character moments so far in your campaigns?
I'd love to take the lead on this one if you don't mind.
Go for it.
So I'm playing the fifth edition game, and this is actually the one character I'm playing right now. But it's been like recently. So I play as a con man who's a warlock, who's a hexblade warlock. His whole story is he was never supposed to be a hexblade warlock. He actually conned the hexblade off of the guy who was supposed to have it, because it was all tied to destiny and all that. Um, and the blade took a liking to him. It was like, hey, you're my guy now. And recently, like his whole character arc is about like he's been a trash person. He's been a very terrible person his entire life. The party is kind of changing him around, and his whole character arc is like, what does it mean to try to be a good person when you've done bad for so long? But he always has these moments where he kind of slips up. We recently just like were talking to like a hag. We ended up having to go into this little bit of a dream world, and everyone had their own little personal dream. And because we were there to save a bunch of kids, and so the hag puts him in with a bunch of gold and a bunch of these kids, and he's just like, children, we come on now, we gotta use your tiny hands. We gotta take all this gold and get it out of here. Well, all of it has to go. I only have two big hands, and you have 1,000 small hands. Come on. And they're like, what is it? The hag shows up because the kids are crying and upset, and he's like, ah. And the hag's like, hey, listen, you could save these kids and you can have this gold, but you got to sell out one of your friends. You got to give them up. I have to take one of them. That's going to be part of the deal. And because I'm the only character in this group that started as an evil character. If this was offered at the start of the game, would have absolutely done it. Would have been like, yeah, where do I sign? And instead, he goes, I can't do that. I can't do that at all. But what I tell you I can do is maybe you and me play a game of cards and we see who actually wins. I'll deal. And then I had like a little fade to black. But it's like the first time my character is like not trying to sell out people. That was like a big character moment for him.
I got a favorite shtick I did. I played a character. I forgot what module we were playing. Probably like some D&D module from one of the books. But I was playing a halfling barbarian, and every time something came up, it was always just like, "Oh, danger! Danger's my middle name." And it like progressed through like weeks of sessions where it's just like, "Oh, a little bit of good luck. That's my middle name," and just so. And then we got to like one of the last fights, like the big bad guy, and like I made like this heroic like charge with my axe. And I was just like, if my name's not Gimbal, danger, good luck, strong. I kept track of every time I said it. That I had a running page of like just 30 names I shouted as I was running towards this. No one knew I was doing this, and I love gimmicks.
I love that.
Yeah, it was like definitely wasn't like anything serious. Probably should have been a little more serious, but I love shticks, so that was my way of dealing with that. It's a lot of fun.
So mine's going to be on the opposite end of the feels here. It was actually really, really. It was a high that then turned to a low. It's not like a specific moment at first. I have two characters in our main campaign that just over the course of our 4 years of playing through this campaign have everybody's shipping them at this point in time, that they've clearly formed this relationship, and that's something they've talked about out of character and everything like that, that it's a character thing, it's not a player thing. um and so they've formed this bond. Well, unfortunately, one of them happens to be the character that was another soul running his body for a year of our campaign. And so it was like, I really loved watching that just organically form this relationship, and then having everybody, like, having to sit back. I think, Velvet, you made the comment about like that holding back in, like, something and you really want to share it as the DM and you just can't. And I'm like, I'm sitting there and I know what's going on, and that player knows what's going on, that he is not who he claims to be right now. And there's this really heartfelt moment is coming, and it's like, and it sets up that when he goes and that final boss fight at the end of book 3 of our story, so much more impact and so much. Unfortunately, AJ is a very good sport. He took it, but just having his character's heart ripped out of this, this other character that he is bonded with, that he's in love with, doesn't completely understand his feelings yet, and it wasn't him for the last 2 months of their travels. It's been this imposter pretending to be the person that he's in love with. And it was, while I played a part in the setting things up of what we were going on, I never knew that we were going to go down that storyline necessarily. That was 100% a player storyline. So as a player character moment, it's just something that became, we didn't know where things were going to go when we set in motion what we did, and what it turned into just was definitely there was a lot of tears that night amongst players when they all had this reveal, and with the DM too, that just like, it hurt. And it was so tough to hold in for months of playing, that this is going on, and it's like, how, I don't know how to get off this train. I don't know how to stop this because it's already there. And fortunately, I have a great set of players that were all game. So we lived the drama and we enjoyed the drama, even though it hurt in the moment. But it is definitely one of my favorite, and also my least favorite. It's that balance between, it was great drama, it's great story to watch, but living in it as we embody these characters, it was so hard to watch.
Now I'm just sad.
Oh my god. I want to make my players cry, both for good reasons and bad reasons, but that's gut wrenching, dude. So, I have four moments that come to mind since I had a big campaign this year. One of them was an interaction between a former cultist, uh, druid, that was playing a revenant, uh, and they chose to be like Brooke from One Piece, just a giant skeleton with like bushes growing inside of them. So she was wanting to, or they were wanting to direct the party north to where her old cult hideout was. And she had a very intense moment of trying to persuade the party to go that way without describing why. And the monk of the party was trying to investigate it. Like, what the fuck is going on? Um, that was for one group. But for my active group, to keep things short, um, my druid is playing a celestial star, or no, celestial warlock, circle of stars. So I chose that his background would, because he's a new player. He was like, oh, well, can you help me with this? And I was like, okay, well, you're a celestial being coming to Earth. You were like a constellation. Since I'm going off of Asian culture. They like astrology for their old mysticisms. So essentially, he was tortured in both druid groves growing up to learn the astral secrets of both the shadow druids and the other druids. So at the time of um, we ending one book, he goes back to the grove and proves their corruption amongst the elders, and he decides to, and was allowed to kill one of these people who forcefully extracted his memories as he was as a kid, and the archroom allowed him to kill one in combat, and she killed one as public, or killed the last two as public testament for no corruption. So he was hell bent on burning both the groves, but at the end he was just like, you know what? These guys didn't suck after all. That was a really cool, like, transformation. But yeah, sorry for that whole explanation. I kind of needed that back.
Good.
All right. Next question. What was the biggest difficulty you faced over the years?
Scheduling meme. Not really. Um, I think just writing everything down. I'll be quite honest with you. I get kind of lost in it sometimes. And then I have to like take notes. I usually assign someone to take notes, but I often have to like take my own. I think coming up with ideas too. Like I run modules mostly, but there's always the off chance that people go off the rails, or I sometimes use them as inspiration. So like, I think coming up with ideas is like also somewhat difficult for me. Again, I'm not very creative.
I don't buy that. I think you're way more creative than you think. I think you need to give yourself a little bit more credit. And I mean, you're still you're running the game. You're doing your best to put on a show. Creativeness doesn't necessarily have to come from thinking of up ideas. Creativeness can just be like how you interact with your players when you're playing as NPCs and you're bringing like these people to life. That's creative. It takes a creative person to be able to really flesh out a personality for someone on a page that says, "Oh, he doesn't like this."
True, true. Yeah, no, you're not wrong.
And I usually say, like if you're like for people who are wanting to typically like expand how they kind of interact with, especially like with D&D as as like just the media that it is, read more. The reading is probably like one of the biggest tools that you can have. Make some time and just get into books because it helps you think of ways to describe stuff. It helps you think of like things to do. You don't have to say, "Oh, like, it missed." You can say, "Oh, like your character does a pirouette and then and definitely avoids the attack." I guess I started talking, since I started yapping, I'll go ahead and answer the question. What was the question again? Sorry.
Biggest difficult.
The biggest difficulty you faced over the years.
Um, I'll be honest, it's people. I'm a little picky. I know this is like how I like to run games and the type of game and vibe that I want to try to create. I've never been one for a lot of like out of world humor being put into games. I hate to say it, like I kind of play my games in a very like straight laced sort of way. I want the Lord of the Rings kind of style, but I really like I want humor. I just want it to be all in character. I love it. Like that's the thing. That for me, that is like that is the special sauce that really gets me going. Um, And so my biggest issue has mostly been in players. Like, it's like people like trying to find people who kind of fit that vibe. And again, I'm picky, I understand, but when I do, I lock them in. I got like a main group that's how we play, and it's been absolutely fantastic. I've been with them for like years, and while I found like a couple of people here and there that I really think fit that vibe, it's I find that vibe very hard, few and far between. And at the end of the day, like, and everyone kind of feels some of like this way. It's just finding people who you connect with in that way that you can share this medium to its maximum potential the way you like to interact with it. And that's difficult. But once you find it, it's like you don't let it go.
Hard agree with that.
A great answer.
That is a great answer.
I would say that's probably, scheduling is always out there. It can be a nightmare to try and schedule things. Fortunately, I've had mostly luck on that. Had a little bit more trouble as of late just because I'm trying to work multiple storylines at the same time that have different characters at different times. So making sure that these people are available this week and then these people are available the next week has been a little bit troublesome. But um, it's actually not a problem I haven't had for quite a while, but I've had a similar problem to Velvet, what you were talking about. That when I started the current campaign I'm running, I started with those two campaigns at the same time, trying to do two different groups, and I had two very different vibes from those two groups. And I have the group that I've been going with for 4.5 years. That is it's what I love. It is. I look forward to Saturdays every week because they are so much fun to play with. They are some of my best friends, and I've met one of them in real life ever. So I love getting together with these people. We just have a really good vibe. We're on a very similar, you know, echo the comments of I like humor, but I am also very much in a serious of don't don't f with my world, don't make fun of my world, don't make fun of the stuff that I built.
Yes.
Find fun in it. That's fine, but don't piss on what I built. Um, and my other group, that is a primary reason that group fell apart, is that we had a very different way. I'm not even like saying anything that I want to say negative about them, just a matter of their approach was far more flippant towards the world building. That it's like, I'm just here to play D&D. I want to hit stuff. I want to kill things. I want to make some jokes here and there. I had players that were like building like clearly just joke characters that were real world content. I had a pair of players that built Macho Man Randy Savage and Hulk Hogan as their two characters, and like they're gonna play these two guys, and they're just gonna be two bros, muscle bound, killing things, and that was fun to them. And I'm not saying that's a wrong way to play the game. That is their way they wanted to play, but how it was like they were running rampage through everything I had. And I am one that I do a lot of anthropomorphic races, do a lot of animal races. Um, One of the guys liked to make jokes that I was playing Zootopia over here. It's like, this is my world. You signed on to play in the world that I like. That was in the initial invite, is we're going to play in this world that I built. I like it, clearly. Otherwise, I wouldn't put it in there. So don't go and say that my stuff's not valid or that you're going to make fun of it. We're going to make peanut jokes about, a Loxodon character. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. And ultimately, we just reached an impasse after probably more time than I should have put into playing in that group. That wanting to make it fun for everybody, wanting to make it work, that ultimately just, did what was best for everybody. And it's like, hey, let's part ways. And unfortunately, I did have one of the players come out and tell me that I was playing D&D wrong. And I'm like, I didn't know that was a thing. That basically I needed to change how I wanted to play D&D if I wanted to play D&D with people, because what I wanted to do is not D&D. And I'm like, I got 6 people the night before this game that are perfectly having a good time. So I think I'll just stick with that. And I don't know that I've talked to that guy since that conversation. And unfortunately, I'd known that person for about a year, playing games with him, and thought we got along better than that. But it's that was probably the most troublesome thing, was just like coming to that realization. And thankfully, like you said, Velvet, I do have this group. I have this core group that is, I don't need to deal with playing with people that aren't on the same wavelength. I can take a pass on that vibe because I have the group that I can go back to. And it is definitely something that I feel very lucky and fortunate to have found.
I love that. And the type of game, those like more casual games, I'm very familiar with them. It's because I try to avoid them, but I do use them sometimes, especially when I'm learning a new system. I'll grab a couple of people who don't care about it. It's like I'm just learning rules here. You give me what I want, I'll give you what you want. But beer and pretzel games, that's like the name. That's the type of game that is like when it's like that.
Yeah,
Never heard that, but I
like that.
resonate with that. Yeah.
Very great answers, everybody. How do you guys prep? I can start this one. Sometimes, to be honest with you, like I'll be driving or I'll literally be like sleeping and I'll have a blurb of a vision of like a scene or like a part of like this geographical landscape, and I'll be like, okay, this is where I can see here in my world. And then I'm like, all right, from here, what story can I tell with this scene? And how can I tie it in with something that I have working? Other times it's just like, well, with my current session, it's pretty much like railroady since I have exactly where I need things to be in the story to make it work for it to end at the proper time. Pretty much like a train station with all the right stops. So, um, so yeah, it's just writing sometimes at work when I'm like doing dishes or making salads. I'm just like, oh, maybe the sorceress or one of the party members can get kidnapped and they have to chase her across the continent. That'd be cool to end the chapter. Shit like that.
I feel like there's like kind of two questions in there, or your answer kind of hits on two different questions to me, as to inspiration
Mm-hmm.
and like the actual active preparation.
Right.
I'm very much in the same boat on the inspiration end, as to you never know when that stuff's going to hit. It's the worst thing that can happen to me is if I wake up in the morning and I have lots of ideas, because I ain't getting shit done at work. It ain't happening. And yeah, that's what pays the bills. I kind of need to be doing that. I need to be able to focus. And it's very, very tough when my mind gets going, because I work in a field that is needs 100% of my brain power going towards it. Um, and so, like, I can't be torn, but once that creative juices start going, it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that and this is really cool, and oh, what if this happened? I'll get off on that tangent, and it's like, oh, it's lunchtime. Was I supposed to do work this morning? I guess I missed that. But on the other side, the actual preparation part, I've done a lot of different things for prep. Um, I'm fairly analytical. Uh, I like systems. I like having frameworks. Uh, So I will typically do like outlines of, here's the couple scenes that I see likely to happen. here's the scenes this is the story point I need to happen today. What's my rough framework of what do I need to build? And then try and come up with a couple, what are some variants, what's some curveballs that I might get thrown, so I have at least a general idea and don't have to take that complete check out. Hey, I need to go build the rest of the session type deal, but a matter of, okay, we can pivot to, you want to go to this location or that location or do this or do that. You never account for it all, 100% for sure. And then I try and craft some of the harder things, like descriptions. If I know this building's going to come into play or this NPC is going to come into play, to try and have some sort of a description written up ahead of time, or at least the notes that I can build the description off of. And then just some weeks I get hyper attentive into trying to plan everything and build too much, and those usually come back to haunt me, and it's not a good move, in my experience at least. But yeah, mostly start with an outline, work out what scenes I expect to happen, and then start filling in the blanks in between.
I think the outline is a good idea. I said it before, but like the sly flourish method is like usually the way I do it too. It's like, here's some some hooks, here's some like locations, here's some characters. This is the thing I need to hit. Take it from there.
So the way I prep, actually, to answer like both of these like two questions. One, inspiration. I was trying to look for it, but I have a notebook. It's like a small notebook. It can fit in the back of my pocket. That and a pen. Anytime I think of something or something kind of inspires me, just write a note. When I'm at my desk, I actually have like a stack of sticky notes, and I'll just write whatever I think is like a good idea, is like a one liner. Um, for example, and I love bringing this up because I actually really enjoyed this little thing that came up. But the idea, I forgot where I got it from, but it was something that was just like it was uh, goblins steal children because they're trying to bring in the kids as more goblins, and that's like that was the idea. Wrote it down. Um, it later turned into like a group of goblins are having trouble with wolves. So they got together, put their greatest goblin minds, like, smashed those two brain cells that they got on both sides. And they had an idea. They want to, when you have a problem, who takes care of it? A king. Well, we need to go get ourselves a king. So let's get one of those humans, and they'll be, so this child, she just gets stolen in the middle of playing tag with her friends, and they give her like a knife and a magic staff, and they say, "All right, king, like you are going to protect us." Um and like that was the whole thing. Like they got a missing persons report, and they're like, "Yeah, these kids showed up, and they were like what is it? They were like, the kids that my daughter was playing with, they showed up saying that she was stolen, and I can't get anyone to help me, because everyone thinks I'm crazy, because all the kids described it as was like a bunch of ugly looking kids, and like something the size of a potato, which we're playing like Pathfinder Second Edition. It's like a potato. It's like potato leshy, um, named Dirt. But they're like, this is all we got, and they're like, all right. Players were just like, we'll take a look at it, and then they meet like this goblin tribe, and like I had it so that the goblins were partying, and then the players showed up. They're like, what are you guys doing here? And then they hear this big booming voice, because the kid's like a tiefling, cast like thaumaturgy. It's just like, servants, like, what is going on? And like this little girl steps out, and she's like, oh shit, you're people. Hey, what's up? And it became this whole moment. And they loved it. They absolutely loved it. But like little ideas, just writing little bunch of ideas, and just like maybe turning them into something later. It doesn't matter what it is. You can sort it out. Just write the idea down, put it somewhere so you can look back on it, and just take it. because even if it sounds stupid, you might think of something really cool with it, right? Um, Now, when it comes down to actual prep, the first thing I usually do is I'll actually ask my players, what do you want to do? Like, just tell me, like, well, what are you guys interested in? Because I'm just clear cut with them. Like, I'm going to prep this type of stuff. Whatever you want to do, we're going to go do it. You guys are the ones, like, you guys are the one driving the car. I'm going to make sure there's gas in the tank. Um, and so I do the same thing that like Silver does, and they tell me what they want to do. I come up with a framework, and then I start to write out scenes, descriptions. I have a bunch of like story moments. I'll throw in some complications and kind of leave some stuff open, but it's building from there. Like I just ask them, hey, what do you guys want to do? Cool. And then I start to work on that stuff. And then I also work on a couple of things that are already cooking in the oven, that I know are going to happen. I would get a couple of those things on deck.
How many notebooks you got?
Too many. Too many. Not enough were actually written in. It used to actually at one point, because I had to move my desk setup, but I used to have actually my tower like right off to the side here. And so it used to the glass where you could see all the insides, it was just covered in sticky notes. And then I had to take those off because I ran out of space, and also I needed to move my setup around. And I just like pulled a bunch of them off, and I just put them in. I don't know where my main notebook is, but just anything. As long as you're writing it down, you got a place to look back on it. Um, yeah, like I also use like my notes app on my phone. If there's like I got a note folder in there that just says like D&D ideas.
You have a folder. I have a file that's just way too long. That's just way too
It's a
long.
folder, one file, way too long. I
Yeah.
thought I thought I was going to divvy it up. That's just not how it happens.
No, I just scroll to the bottom where I try to find a place for it and just
Yeah.
eject it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hoping I'll find it one day. I feel like the post-it note thing is funny. It's like you're like one corkboard and some red string away from like being a mad investigator just on the case way too long, you know?
It's funny that you mentioned that because now that I started prepping some stuff on because I use like I now I'm using a app for some of my prep. Not an app, like a website. It actually has like a board feature, and I actually do use it to just like throw a bunch of ideas on there and just like type it up, and maybe I'll use it, maybe I won't. Right now, like the biggest thing because I just switched over projects, and but right now I'm using it as like an intrigue board, and I'll show it to you real quick.
Obsidian by chance?
No, I'm actually using Legend Keeper.
Oh, I know.
Part of
Okay.
Yeah, so part of the reason why I'm using this is just
I
because
like this.
they my players also contribute to the wiki, and so I get to write just like a bunch of hidden notes on top of their garbage that they can't see, that just links to stuff. But this is like the game we're running, and I like different factions and just how they connect. And then I'll take some of these things, make events, make connections, go back to it. But like if you got like a lot of like a high level stuff happening, I always recommend make yourself an intrigue board to just kind of connect stuff, especially if it's like very politically oriented, which is like what my game currently is.
Yeah, I can
Because
appreciate it.
eventually I'm going to show this to the players, and it's going to answer like anything that they don't learn. I'll be like, hey, we finished the game. Here you go. Look at all this stuff. And I'm preparing for this series of, oh shit. Well,
Or you don't reveal it and then you have spin-off worlds.
well, this setting, I plan on eventually doing something with it. The thing about like the game is that the players don't know this yet. But eventually it's going to be just like a big ass time loop. And then we'll like this game's gonna be broken into like two different parts. It's a long story. I'm not gonna get into it because we don't have that. I don't know if we have that kind of time. That's like an off-camera kind of thing. But it's that's why I'm going to show it to them because after this first part of the game changes, a lot of stuff is going to be changing. So they can kind of see, and actually based off what they've done and they kind of know certain events are probably going to happen one way or another. So it's going to be another resource for them to kind of have.
Solid stuff.
That's awesome. We got a question from the immovable rod. What makes a great antagonist one that your players will never forget? I can answer this one to start things off. So, in my current and running session, I it's based around the murder of an NPC that one of my players fell in love with, and blah blah blah. Um, so they find her killer. Her fiance kills the tries to kill the killer. They find out that this dude wasn't dead. They get a better weapon, figure out that he's a hag spawn assassin, and spiritually connected to the druid that I mentioned earlier. And then they recently just killed him, but they've been and looking for this dude for like 6 months, and they finally killed him. Um, so I use like goonish overtypes, and I like to use horror vibes to describe some of my villains. But with everything, you have to give them a reason. I think in that the reason why your players don't like your villain is in itself its own sweetness, in my opinion. Because everybody has different angst against this guy for a different reason.
It's pretty much nail on the head. It's for to make it something that's going to be memorable. It's a matter of the players having some sort of identity that they can feel that need to eliminate this threat. Whether that's a hate, whether that's a duty, whatever it happens to be, whatever string you want to pull, but it's got to be something that the players identify with, and it's not like, okay, well, this is some existential threat that has nothing to do with me. Yeah, I'll play the game, but I don't really care about that part. Can you give me something else in between? Something that builds whatever time frame, whether you're playing a one shot or you're playing something that's running for 5 years, you get a little bit more time to build. If you're doing something longer term, build those connections, build that reason for disliking the enemy. But it's got to be something that they have both as players and as player characters, some sort of investment in wanting to see that mission completed.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the best villains I've ran have been usually like dripped in, like they almost two faced in a way, right? Like you almost create a villain that's like kind of like the players don't know what to make of, right? Like they're on there. Is he on our side? Is there? Are they not? Um, Giving them flaws, giving them things of that nature, and I guess ultimately what you said, tying it to like the characters, like making them want it. But like I don't know, I've always found like the most compelling villains are the ones that you can't tell are villains right away, right? Um, to me, that's always been interesting.
I think I have a very different philosophy on this, which I'm happy to share. When it comes down to, for me, what it comes down to is what makes your villains great is probably going to come right from character creation. It takes the buy-in of the players to make a villain part of what makes a villain memorable. Uh, so it's creating characters that are actually going to be engaged with the world and the story, and a lot of that comes from right from the start, right? Players who are wanting to be engaged in a story. Another comes from there's a bunch of different like trains of thought on it, because I love villains that are just villains that are for the sake of villains, cartoonish, mustache twirling, bad guys who are just up front with it. Some people like people who stab in the back. Regardless, I think it's the best villains or whatever kind of fits the themes of the campaign, which is again, I feel like come at the start. Like, what kind of story are you trying to tell? The first thing I always think about in my games is I think about the ending and like what is going to happen at the end, and then I think about the beginning, the ending, and then we build the middle together. Um, the I mean, at the end of the day, it's like I also try to actually have more than one villain, because I have like layers of antagonists. I have people that who don't like. I'm gonna use my game for example. So right now the main antagonists for the players are the nobles, right? There are there each noble is like a different style. You got one that who is like the head of. They've only seen at the party, but they know this dude is actively working against them. So he's up there, scheming and like they know he is. They just heard a bunch of rumors about him talking mad shit about them. He's trying to rally people up against them. They have yet to actually interact with him outside of that party. You got some of them that are directly like in their face. You have others who are wanting to help, but are backstabbing. I got like we're running the gamut here as far as like villains, but they're not actually the big bads of my game. The big bads of my game don't even care that the players exist, but everything's connected to them. Like literally, and I'll just point it like so in my game, like the actual big bad, if one of the big bads that of the end of the first part is just like so in my setting, like the wish is a spell that never gets used, like ever. No one remembers when wish is being used because it changes like people's memories and constants. But the thing is that they're protected by like creatures, and all their job is to do is just process that wish. So the big twist in the game is that like this group of Fae were wished away, and the process is taking 1,000 years because of some bullshit that's happening. But that's the big bad, and the big bad does not care that the players are there. They're just doing their job. They're completely indifferent. But you have people, other bad guys, who are trying to capitalize on what the state of the world is now that are active antagonists in their face. And eventually, when we get to the other part of the game, the big bad at that point is someone who isn't a bad guy, is actually just a dude who wants to live. But he's caught up in the middle of it too. And the only way for them to stop him is to stop all of this shit is that dude has to die eventually. They don't know it, but eventually it's gonna come out. But so another thing is just like have more than one villain. Have villains on top of villains. Your big bad. Any of these villains would be, I think, absolutely memorable in their own little campaign. But antagonists are big and small. The big bad can be multiple big bads. You can deal with one now, but you probably have another one down the line. That's just how I run games, though.
Everybody answered, right? All right,
I, yeah.
I think so.
cool. What are your favorite RP moments? I know we kind of touched on this a little bit, I think we did answer this. All right. Next question. What software do you guys use?
You talking VTT?
Yeah. What kind of VTT do you use?
Our group's always used Fantasy Grounds. Uh, kind of a Matt Colville sold me on it. All of his lovely DM videos, and I was like, okay, that I'll go roll with this. And it, like anything, it's got definitely good and bad to it, but it's what we invested in when we started, and we've all learned how to use it. So it's kind of stuck with us at this point. I don't know that anybody would really want to try and shift. I know there's a lot of great stuff out there with like some of the other ones. I think you mentioned something about Velvet. Do you Foundry? Sorry, I'm asking you the question that you're supposed to be answering. But
Yeah, I do. I use Foundry. You want to pass it to me?
sure, run with it.
So yeah, I do use Foundry, but I also actually use Roll20, and ultimately, I really think it comes down to whatever you're willing to invest in. And I don't stick to just one. I'll use a multitude of different places. It's just wherever you or your players are most comfortable with. I was thinking about trying to go use Alchemy because they got like they're running a Humble Bundle is running a thing for like masks. I think it was like $25. I'm not sure if it's still there. I just got paid. I need to actually take a look at it. But but there's a lot of great VTTs. I mean, whatever's going to work best and that's most integrated with whatever system you're wanting to use is like always going to be the best. So I don't just try to sit on one. I'll use whatever is available to me because if you got one that's going to be like this is the one for it, then yeah, absolutely. I use Roll20 for 5th edition because most people already like are familiar with one Roll20 and 5th edition in a lot of cases, and I already got all the stuff bought in there. I'm not willing to go drop another like couple of grand, not grand, like but a couple of hundred on a bunch of books that I already bought. That's a big investment. But what I can do is when I'm looking at other games, I can go wherever I want. I run Pathfinder on Foundry because it's the best place to run it. Hell, I'd be using Fantasy Grounds if I had the cash at that time. Because the only reason why I picked Roll20 out like not instead of Fantasy Grounds was because at the time I just didn't have the money for the license and they weren't doing the subscriptions. Had they been, I would have been already on Fantasy Grounds. Wherever I'll use everything. I will you put it into my hand. If it's the best place to run that game, I'm running it there. Shout out to Foundry, Roll20, Fantasy Grounds, Alchemy. Alchemy, especially if you like more atmospheric things. And if you're broke and you don't want to do with any of that, or if you don't even want to deal with any of those being as complicated, Owlbear Rodeo.
Yeah, I was gonna say Elmer. I have like a very biased answer to this one. Actually, I have a follow-up question. What do you enjoy about a VTT, or like, do you have like ground rules for like a VTT? Because I've had some not difficulties. I won't say it's been ever a problem, but I often come across the threads. I've been kind of invested in the VTT market for a long time. The common thing I see is like players move around, um, game crashes, servers offline. Like, is that ever like a huge problem for you guys?
Personally, no, because I just use Foundry and I host it off my computer, and it's fine. Um, I did mess around with Roll20 a little bit, and it's fine. It's stable. Um, I do like Velvet's answer though. Whatever, whatever is the best, I'll play it there. That needs to be on a T-shirt. But no, like last night we played on Tailspire. That was the first time we did that on Ghost game. That was interesting. But no, I have yet to have. The only times I had problems is with D&D Beyond. that is painted ass at times.
Yeah. Decorated background, I guess, but I founded a VT a long time ago that got acquired by Drive Through RPG. Worked with them for like 5 or 6 years. So it was always interesting to see the VTT market evolve. I ultimately nowadays don't like VTTs. Um, I don't like them because I think they try to solve too many problems at once, and this is my soapbox more than anything. But like you try to every VTT goes out and it's like I'm going to try and solve this, and it's going to be easy for everyone, and that's never the case. And in fact, in my personal opinion, and again, this is my soapbox. This is not grandiose, like oh god, like um, I find that VTTs prioritize a lot of video game elements too much in terms of, and I think it takes away from some of the role play. Not saying again, this is part of anyone's Here's campaign. I just, again, this is something I see online for a lot of new people who come to tabletop games. And being that I like to introduce new people to tabletop games, it's kind of something I pay attention to. I find VTTs that are like, oh, particle effects, and I spent 40 hours setting up my game, and I'm like, I have a full time job. I don't have fucking time to do that, so I don't do that. And like it kind of take, I don't know. For me, it ruins the immersion. There's something more magical about me saying like you're in a room full of fairy lights and there's dust particles burning your cheeks and like there's some element about it you're just not going to get with a VTT. Um, Same with like pre-made maps and stuff. Like I like pre-made maps. I use them. I'm not dissing them. I subscribe to a lot of different artists. But I've also ran into encounters where it's like you're in a forest and it's like, okay, I check under this log and I'm like, I have nothing under that fucking log, man. I have no idea. Like, like it's just a log. Can we ignore it? It's like it's not the hook here. Um, so yeah, for me, like I use owlbear if I need to, like just for like distance drawing and stuff like that. But for me, I'm sort of on the opposite end of like using software at the table, which is also like plug, uh, if I can plug. But it's why I built Overseer Studio because it's not meant for players, right? It's meant for the GM. Ultimately, the GM is the thing that is running the session. It's the thing that if the GM is being inundated with you know different parts of the role player, if they're being inundated with not knowing some knowledge that they have to go look up, right? Like it kind of grinds things to a halt in a way. So I try to solve for that problem where I use software that I think helps me as a GM. And I'd even go as far as to say like I like little tools. I like seeing people build little tools. Like I love random encounter generators. I love little like town generators. I love like random item generate. Like I love all sorts of these like very tiny little specific tools that like almost if everyone's like a geek, like a Unix geek, but subscribe to the Unix philosophy, which is like do one thing, do it really well. Um, and so I like combining a lot of that stuff. Again, plug for Overseer Studio, but like you can combine a bunch of those like little tools that you have found online that make it work for you. Um, Unsurprising, I will mention Sly Flourish again. He wrote an article about this, or Mike wrote an article about this like a month, 2 months ago. And it just like, I don't know, it solidified like my whole experience as a GM, which is just like, don't rely too much on one thing. Find things that work for you and then use them at your table because ultimately, if it decreases friction, you will have a better time. And now I get off my soapbox.
I love that uh there's a lot of things that you mentioned there, and then that's part of the thing too is that I usually while VTTs are really good, I don't typically recommend them, especially when teaching new players. I actually try to, if I'm actually teaching someone completely new who's never experienced tabletop RPGs, my goal is actually to remove as much as that as possible, which is why I actually carry a bunch of very like of a bunch of games that I know are more narratively focused, where I don't have to use maps. I don't have to use any of that because I think the basis when learning actual tabletop games, like ignore all the video game elements, ignore all the crunch, take that all out. Simple, 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 simple. That's why I love Powered by the Apocalypse. I actually run a ton of different systems. But that's why like I'll run like a lot of Powered by the Apocalypse systems or like something really small. Like on my shelf here, I got Cairn. I also just recently got the Cairn 2 e-box. I have a bunch of like just small stuff. My goal anytime I'm teaching someone is try to make it as pen and paper as possible, because I think that is like it. I get to know and get to play with all these tools, and I'll play with other people who already know all of these tools, but that's only because they know what to expect. I'm expecting them to know what to expect, especially when if I'm meeting them for the first time. That should be already. I don't want to try to learn like try to teach a bunch of people. Actually, it's funny. I didn't know you were the person for Overseer, because Overseer was actually something I was just talking to someone about recently, where I was just like, yeah, no, this is like this type of stuff. I think is like really handy for literally what I'm talking about. Again, taking out a lot of that stuff. And I was actually showing one of my friends. I'm like, hey, this is the stuff I think like if you're going to be like if you need like something, this is like a good thing to just kind of like again a digital DM screen. And I love it as a tool. Plan on playing around more with it, but love what you're doing. But yeah, like I have different expectations for different games and different levels of play. And so I think it's also important that like whatever tool you are using should kind of match. And I'm actually really for removing a lot of that and keeping it very simple when like being introduced into this hobby. And then, as experience goes, you can go ahead and add a little bit more. It's, no one does like a 4K run. You probably tried to crawl first. And if you did, right out the womb, let's talk. I need to do a screenplay of your life. We can capitalize this. I promise. Just shoot me a DM.
There's something that like I'm trying to think of the right word here, like not irks, but like there's something like just totally not immersive of trying to teach someone like a VTT, and it's just like, oh, you're facing this big monster, and like he comes out with these claws and swipes you, and it's like make me a reaction save. It's like, okay, you got to right click your character. Okay, then you got to open you got to open up the character sheet. All right, click that, not that one. Make sure advantage is checked. Check it just like, do you have physical dice? Just roll the fucking dice. It's so
Yeah.
much easier. Also, big shout out to Legend Keeper. I really like what you did there. I use Obsidian personally, but I'm also just cheap. I don't like subscriptions.
It's fair. It's fair. Actually, Obsidian was going to be my
I know the Legend
my
Keeper
main
guy.
thing.
He's a really awesome dude for what it's worth.
Yeah.
It's like I support that stuff. I met the Owlbear people too at Gen Con in 23, and they're superb people. Like, so I always support them where I can too.
I'll literally I try to shout out like everything. I'm big on tools and getting tools in in people's hands for the things that they want to do. How I just recently had a guy who's just like who again like I'm the type of person who's just like who someone tells me their problem, I'm like, I think I know the tool for that. Have you looked at this? Literally, that's how like the overseer conversation came up.
I recently started to get better at Incarnate. That was a great fucking software, and 2.0 is about to come out. Ooh, stuff's looking really good on there. But no, I need to check out some of these tools. But next question: how often do you guys improvise during a session?
Wait, did we get everyone with that? With the last one? Sorry, I just
So I'm pretty sure we did. I know we got like
oh
side carried with another question, I think.
yeah, that's what I was worried about. I was worried is just in case.
I got on a soapbox and I get passionate about that
No,
stuff.
I love
No,
trust me.
please get on a
I was
soapbox.
like, yeah, I'm gonna put my like slightly smaller soapbox next to you. I'm for it.
Yeah, I think we hit everybody on what do they use,
Got you.
which was the original question. To your improv question,
Mm-hmm.
all the time. I mean, that's the name of the game. Honestly, reacting to what your players do, and there's no way to plan for everything. So there's always some little element, and as much as I still do it, I still try and plan for things. I should quit because I really don't like. I enjoy it more when I just come up with stuff. Other than I forget to write down notes and I forget what the hell I did, and then I have to try and figure out what canon did I just create, because I need to write that down somewhere because I'm gonna f it up later. So, but yeah, all the time.
I think it's like the big thing I do. It's like pretty much like, again, like I'll write down outlines. I'll write down like points, like things, inspiration, even like that's like my big thing with like characters. Like I always say I'm good at maybe the creative comment before wasn't fair to me, but like I like on myself, but like I feel like I'm better at copying than I am coming up with my own ideas. So like I always come up with like inspiration. Like the character I played last night, Pippi, was just the House of Gucci ripoff entirely. It was like, oh, what would a spoiled child look like out in the adventuring world? um, and so like I always like that with like characters. So I improvise the characters 100%, but there's always like some inspiration for it. Like, whether it's like, the guy I just encountered at the deli or like some TV show character I was watching the other day.
I like that. I improv when I have to, and like sometimes, like Silver just said, I'll come up with some canon shit. I'm like, oh, that's a really cool idea. What the fuck did I just say? So, I have to go back in the VOD and like, oh, okay, so this is canon now. Do you guys have any questions for each other?
Oh, just real quick on the improv thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely, all the time. Can't stop, won't stop. I also find that a lot of the times, restrictions can can birth a lot of creativity. And I always do tell people like, when you're trying to DM, put yourself in all situations. Put yourself in open stuff. Put yourself in like more like run modules. I like you want to. It's like a series of muscles, right? You don't just start. You start working out like a couple, but you want to try to diversify. Do just a little bit here, a little bit there. Because everything that we do is just a skill that is going to be capitalized by experience. The more experience you have, the the better and easier a lot of that stuff is. Improv in both very closed environments and open. But yeah, improv is the name of the game, as Silver highlighted. It's what we do.
I know in theater, like a big thing with improv is the yes and. Like, do you guys subscribe to that personally? Like when you play tabletop games?
Yes,
Ooh,
and
I like that.
uh,
Yes, and
yeah. So that is a big that's
Like
a big
yes, but
mentality
is a
in
big one.
in improv. And I think it doesn't necessarily entirely fit in tabletop. And that's where you have to think about it. Because it should be I like what I try to do is it's yes and then it's no but. Yes and blank or no, but you can do this and this. It's a mixture of these two, because if you yes and everything, you're probably going to not be in a fun position eventually. But if you know but as the DM, you can help guide and kind of keep things in check. It's like, no, that doesn't work, because everything's not going to work, but you did bring up some good points there. Like, this is like, you see this in the room and this in the room, or something that wasn't there before that's similar to this idea but fits in more in line. The One of my favorite things about games, or I forgot who said this. I think it might have been Brendan Lee Mulligan, who is like, or someone, I forget who. They were like, I am not writing this story. The players are writing the story. I'm simply
I
the
wanted to bring
editor.
up this quote. It was Brandon Lee Mogan. I
Yeah.
know exactly what you were about to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing to always remember. Like, the players are going to have all sorts of ideas. You're there to edit them.
Co-authored by a random element of dice. It was Brandon Lee Mogan. Yeah.
Yeah.
I subscribe to personally. I asked the question because like I subscribe personally. Like I watched like a short talk that I'm sure a lot of people have come across the video online, but like Matt Parker and Trey Stone, obviously wrote South Park, a lot of different other movies. They don't subscribe to the yes and, they subscribe to the yes but. Like this happens, but this happens, and then that happens, but this happens. Like when you do and they say it's like there's too much coincidental things that happen, right? But is a much stronger word because like, oh yeah, you defeated this thing, but this happens. Oh, you succeeded in this, but this happens, right? Like you create this element of chaos, or this element of surprise. I think that keeps people on their toes and engaged. That I just I find very fascinating.
Yeah, that's kind of like, yeah, it's literally, yeah, it's like the two, like that's literally what it is. It's taking like the two things I'm talking about because they do come together because it's, you know, like, no, I can't say it any better than our boy here. He hit the nail on the head, but yes, exactly.
That was awesome.
Hmm. Uh, I always like asking this question. Just the like, what's the number one? Well, actually, what would be your, let's say top two? What are your top two tips for someone who's starting out as a DM, just brand new?
Um, Understand your players. Like, understand who you're playing with, how they think, and what kind of characters they would like to bring to the table. And then know the monsters that you're going to introduce your players so you can use them to their full potential. Um, and from there, I feel like our is kind of like that seesaw for fundamentals, I guess, for your roughing it, so to speak. But definitely, my basic rule of thumb is know your players. Um,
I kind of tie into that one, especially. I was gonna say, before you said know your players, is find a group that is willing to learn with you, even if they played before. But like you're going to make mistakes, right? You want players who are going to guide you, right, and not like take advantage of the fact you might not know something, or are not going to be, upset that you forgot their +2 bonus on this roll or something like that, or um, I remember my one of my first times GMing, like I was playing like something with a multi attack, and I had a player who used to GM, and they were like, "You get multi attack on that. You can absolutely strike me twice if you wanted to." It's like, I appreciate that. Did not know that. Should have read a little bit further. Um, so yeah, like tying into Fargrim's answer, know your players. Like find a good group, right? I'd say the other thing is I'm actually interested in your answer, Silver, because I think you were the one that said, you went gun ho and you wrote your own thing, and I commend you wholeheartedly. Like for me, I had to dive into a module to kind of understand the flow of like what a tabletop game was. Um, I guess you like at the end of the day, like it's kind of just like a fantasy novel in a way, right? There's characters and plot points and you know uh, problems within all these different connections and stuff. And I don't know, I personally, for me, it was easier to read a book and figure out like how to make that work than it was to like write my own thing. But yeah, I'd be really invested in your answer there.
Guess you're queuing me up, so I have to
I
probably answer this.
passing
So
the torch. I'm trying to find
there we
ways
go.
to inject it. Yeah.
Well, I'd echo the answer about know your group. Um, for I'll echo back to Velvet and I both, or I piggybacked on Velvet's comment earlier about the, you know, finding that group that's you really mesh with and that you're on the same vibe and you want, you are a very good collaborative group of storytellers because you all want to tell that collaborative story together. whether that's serious, whether that's funny, whether that's horror, whatever it is, you got to be on the same page. And if the group that you're with, that you can't get on the same page with them, or they're not willing to get on the same page with you, or find some middle ground, it's probably not gonna, nobody's gonna want to make the scheduling work, because we all know that D&D scheduling is the BBEG. It's people have to. This is a huge time commitment to play D&D. I mean, I can go watch a baseball game on TV. I don't watch baseball games on TV, but I'm like, you can go watch a baseball game and waste 3 hours of your life, or thoroughly enjoy 3 hours of your life. You go play D&D, and it's like you're typically not showing up for a one game. You're showing up for a long-term commitment that I'm going to put in 4, 5, 3, however many hours your sessions run, and then it's going to live in your brain for the next however many weeks it is until you can get back together. And so going into it with a group that you can't mesh with, that you can't get on the same page, that everybody's going to be excited for it, just is kind of not worth the investment in most cases. So I'm not saying everybody's got to do what you want to do, or you have to do what they want to do, but you have to find some middle ground. Find out what's going to be that vibe for that group, and then tell that story, whatever that story is. You can't push it one way or the other. You got to be on board. People have to be receptive, whatever. So yeah, the players part would be my number one. My number two would be the element of we're all players. The DM is a player too. And that gets said a lot. It is something that I've had to check out every once in a while and go and say, hey, you know what? If this prep, if this getting ready for this and doing this thing isn't fun to me, this is a game. Why am I playing this game?
Why am I
that's not
sitting
fun to
here
me?
not enjoying myself? Yeah.
And it is not my job. That you can't put 100% all the pressure, that it's all on you to make sure that your players have fun. Don't put that pressure on yourself as a new DM. It will kill you. You have to be, you have a job. And that, we've kind of said it with a lot of our answers. There is so much that comes from the players too. Your job only goes so far in making sure that it's a great session, that we have a good time. You can set the scene, you can set the stage for it, you can put things in positions. Some things will work, and some things will completely not. Everybody's fallible. You are not going to be a perfect DM. And so just understanding that you're there to play the game too. And so play the game, have fun, make sure that what you're doing is fun to you as well, so that you want to be there every week. Because if you have that energy that you want to be there, it's a lot easier for the players to be on that same energy level too. Sorry, I'm not addressing your specific point that you're wanting to key me up for. There, Tom.
No, I
No, that's
did.
fine. This is an amazing answer. Like, you're really driving it home with finding that group that meshes. Hell, I had groups where players literally wanted to kill each other and was plotting player assassinations.
Yeah, it's. I think I'm trying to come up with any other answers, but like most everything, I can kind of just drill down to it at the heart. It's those two things: having a group that you want to spend time with, and understanding that we're all there to have fun and just have fun.
I definitely find those as being very foundational. A lot of people had you guys had like a lot of really good answers. I'm gonna go with I'm gonna take like a different route with it. Usually for like usually what I recommend for DMs who have never played before. A lot of the times, a lot of people interact with media that typically inspires them to go ahead and play things like D&D, and like they make they'll make their own comparisons to them, to the like the greats, right? To all of these DMs that are like very incredibly popular, obviously, like Brendan Lee Mulligan, Matt Mercer, so on and so forth, right? Um, and uh, the you know a lot of the times I think it's we get hit with like imposter syndrome, right? There's that, am I actually good? Am I not? And like one of the things I always tell people is like, listen, no, everyone starts somewhere. I usually recommend like you want to like what do you want to do? What is the skill that you want to develop? And I know a lot of people when they're first starting out, like, well, how do I describe something? How do I get like fancy? Right? They don't know what to do. They'll some people will like they'll run a book as it is, and they're just like, well, this isn't very evocative. And I'm like, no, no, no. I always recommend start with a module. Start with some sort of module. Start with some sort of already pre-made campaign. If if you really want some form of direction, the first thing I always tell like a newer DM is going to be, if you want to practice descriptions, then like throw out every description in that book. Write your own. You wanna get better at that, then do it. Start working on it. You have all the stuff here listed that's in that room. The book is gonna say, well, it's wet, damp, and it smells like fish. And it's like, all right, well, the underside of the fishery, as like you can, as soon as you get there, you smell it. That scent of mold. The air is stagnant, and you hear this like this dripping sound from some leak undiscovered. And you take your time to actually do that. It's already in there. Everything you need to describe, just throw your spin on it. Make it more your own. You want to practice on like if it's people, then practice people. You want to try to do funny voices, well, there are plenty of characters in the book. Go give them a funny voice, right? I always like take whatever it is, and I always tell like a new DM, just like grab a module, and remember that whatever this campaign is, this is just a skeleton. You are literally the person. You and your players are going to be the ones crafting the meat, and you get to practice whatever you want with that. It's all in there. It's just an idea. It's just a guideline, and you get to play with it and make it your own. So whatever you want to practice, do that thing. If it's rules, then sure, you can just run it as is and just focus on the rules. Just like pick a thing that you want to practice and work on it. My number two is oh, I just had it in my head. Um I can't remember initially what it was going to be, but I'll just go with with one that's coming to me now. Uh no matter how long you've been doing like DMing, no matter how like far you get, you need to be always open to the idea of learning. I think having that like willingness to be able to learn and understand that the way you do things is not always going to be the best, and looking and trying to improve. It's that willingness to try to grow that I think really sets up, that actually like really sets apart like an okay DM to like a really good one. It's just as long as you are willing to keep growing, developing, and trying different things, again, exploring. I always tell people, like, if you want to be a better DM, look at other systems. Look at like
Yep.
absorb as much as you possibly can from everything. Like we're only looking at one book made by a couple of people if you're only focused on like fifth edition. But there's a bunch of tips, there's a bunch of tricks, there's a bunch of different styles that so many game mastery books have, that have been going on. There's generational knowledge in all of these books that like you can't fit them all in like in a single book. I always tell people, get game mastery books from other systems, figure out what they suggest. There's a ton of information that's just out there waiting for you to discover.
I think you said a word that really resonates with me, and like I'm gonna try and avoid a soapbox moment here, but practice, right? And I think that's like the big thing, right? Like it doesn't pain me. Like I don't have a moral issue with it. Like I'm not gonna say I it's a moral thing. But it does somewhat pain me when people like are just like, oh, Like I'm really nervous that like, you know, my players are going to want to do this thing and I don't have like a name for it. Like so I go to ChatGPT and I can just generate a name and it's like, okay, I have definitely used Forest Townville before. You can just name things and it's fine. You know, like it's it's all part of the fun. And then what's even more fun is that's part of the lore. And is Forest Townville awesome? No. But is it now part of everyone's storyline? Yes. And you created that. That's cool. You know, I don't know. The practice thing is really resonating with me. I think it ties back to like having a group too, like someone you could just riff with, right? Almost like having like a theater group. Um, God, I also had another point to this, and now I forgot. Um, oh, you mentioned Matt Mercer and like Brandon Lee Mulligan also. It's like it's one of those things that it's like I'm almost thankful I never started with those types of things. I know that's not how everybody start. I know a ton of people start like that. I don't want the critters coming after me. I respect the shit out of Critical Role. Let's just be clear. Um, but like I'm glad I didn't start like that because there was going to be that imposter syndrome that was planted because Matt Mercer is a god tier DM, Brandon Lee Mulligan is a god tier DM, and you're not going to be, and I'm not still, you know, and like no, like it would be hard to put yourself on a pedestal like that. Just do your best, like you know, have fun with it, you know, and I think that was where I wanted to go. Have fun with it, right? The more you practice, the more fun you're going to have, right? Because you get to exercise that muscle and have and be more creative, and it becomes easy. It's like lifting weights, right? Like it just gets easier over time, right? Um, I don't know. I find there's just it sucks some of the joy out of it when people are just like, oh yeah, I just use like ChatGPT to like come up with like plot points and stuff, and it's like, no, no. Like, sure, I guess if you are having fun doing that, then I guess I can't knock it too much. But like, it's not, in my opinion, stretching any muscles. It's just kind of like again following a book to the T, and then like when something goes off the rails, what are you going to do? Ask ChatGPT, I guess, but like that's not exercising anything. Um, okay, I went on a soapbox. I'm sorry, guys. That was I said I wasn't going to do it, and I did it.
I guess to add to both of your comments on the practice element and the attempting to be, you're going to go and you're going to be Matt Mercer, you're going to be Brennan Lee Mulligan, you're going to be anybody that you've seen that has been doing this a lot longer than you have as a new DM. And that they didn't start like that either. Their first game didn't look anything like that. Even if you went and watched first session campaign 1 Critical Role versus where their whole thing is different. Good and bad. I'm not gonna get into that debate. That's a whole nother issue. But I mean, we all, if the good DMs, and I think that was one of your comments, was the realization that you could, there's always more to learn and keep learning. That you are constantly evolving and trying to be better. And you have to start somewhere. And some people will start a little bit ahead of the curve because they have some natural ability here or they have some training here that just happens to work. You know, the theater kid or the writer, there's going to be some of those things, but you still don't know what you're doing until you do it. And you can go and practice certain elements, but just in general, just I'll use your exercising the muscles, that it's just a matter of the repetition and doing those things will make you better. Will you ever be Matt Mercer? Who knows? We'll never know unless you try and unless you practice at it and keep doing this. To go to the elephant you introduced to the room with the AI element,
I'm so sorry.
it's the reverse. I'm not shaming anybody that wants to go use that. That's fine.
No, my
And
goal is
I will admit that I use it for certain things, not for any general major concepts or anything like that, but from time to time, it's like, you know, honestly, I use it more for research of, hey, can you tell me what were arrowheads made out of in 1200 BC? Because I don't want to go do the research part for it. Because I don't need to learn that skill. I have to do enough research stuff at work that's a completely other creature. I don't need that. But it can definitely be AI if you use it for everything, that you aren't exercising any muscles and you're actually decaying and going back the other direction because you're losing the ability to make those descriptions, make those creative moments, your Forest Townville, whatever it is. It's not going to get better by going and having it's like copying off the paper of the neighbor in your classroom. It's like you aren't going to get better at history if you had to go look off your neighbor's paper on what the answer was. That's not going to get you any better at it. So just do it. Do it badly, but do it, because that's the only way you're going to get any better at it. Every week I'm finding something that it's like, hey, if I did that worked well, let me do that more often. I'll hopefully remember it the next week. But you're constantly learning. You're constantly evolving as a DM. And I get it that it's the easy way out, and it's very tempting, but it's the easy way out. And we
It's
all
the
know that the
way
easy
out.
way out is not usually the way out. It's
There's
the
a
way.
It's like the easy way out is the same thing as people who pay to go to an escape room and then look up the puzzles on ChatGPT. Yes, people do this. Like, you are robbing yourself of joy. Why are you doing that?
Yep.
there's a story. I forget where I heard this from. So I don't have a place to give it credit to, but it kind of takes like some of the stuff that we've been talking about. And it's just like it's about fundamentals, right? Like again, it's the skill that we're developing and stuff like that, and like removing things like VTTs, removing things like all of that, and just getting back down to pen and paper, kind of the origins of like what we do. It's always a good. I think it's always a good idea. The story goes is it's about is this guy he's in like a wrestling group in like school, right? And like the thing about his coach is that like they teach him like throughout like his first, I think it's like his first 2 years, like all they do is teach him like fundamentals. He gets into his like first he gets into his like first like set of matches, and he loses. He actually loses like every single match of the year. But his coach is always teaching like, no, you're like keep doing fundamentals. And like what the other kids are doing are just like their moves that pretty much lead to like easy wins. And the problem is that because they don't practice fundamentals, they don't skill up with the rest of the group, because they get to a certain level where like this guy goes, he talks about like he goes up against that same person, and that person tries to do that like the same one trick that he's been doing forever to win his wrestling matches. And this time it doesn't actually work, and he's like, oh shit, this is what it was about. Like, because this person had practiced no fundamentals. And so just the basic concept of the game, like just them, like the wrestling them, all the tricks and things that you need to be learning to be able to do it effectively, he did learn, and he's able to just like trump him. I wish I could find it. He just go like a God, it might have been some like random video on TikTok. It's terrible because like I have so much things in like a single folder that like is just forever, but it's in there, and it's like it's still I think about it all the time. It always comes down to like fundamentals, fundamentals, fundamentals. You you learn the fundamentals. Artists a lot of the times learn anatomy before they start breaking it apart and like drawing the way that they do. It's the same thing with anything. Learn your basics, understand how they work, and then your skills will develop along that understanding.
Actually, just came across a YouTube video. I mean, save for later. Watch it at some point in time. But just the premise of it is very much on that. But with cooking, the if all you do is learn to just follow a recipe, you aren't learning to cook. You're learning to follow directions.
Mm.
That learning the fundamentals of acids and savory and sweet and all these different things, and how this might change this and the chemistry of it, to the degree you need to, is what actually is the training for you to actually be a cook. So that if it's, I don't have eggs, well, then I just can't make this. Well, no, you could still make something. How do you make something? And I guess to me that's what resonates in my mind when you're talking about, like the wrestling element, because I have a sore spot in my mind for wrestling, so therefore I can't use that one in my mind.
Fair.
So, but the idea of like cooking, that just crazy. I just saw that this week that came up, and I'm like, oh, that's brilliant. I never have learned that stuff, but man, do I love watching the bear.
Wow, that applause for that that connection. That's great.
So how's everybody doing on time?
Probably got what time is it? Oh, probably running low.
All right.
Yeah, same here.
After that 2:30 night.
No, can't do that again.
If you'd like to, we can wrap it up here, and then we can save
Right.
this group for the beginning or sometime next year. How does that sound?
Sure.
We'll probably have more guests. I see the immovable rod is in chat, and him and Ray were both in our one shot last night, so we'll invite them to the group, this group next year. But thank you, Silver, Velvet. Thank you for stopping by.
Anytime.
And Tom, um, thank you so much for your time. Great answers, everybody.
I love learning from everyone. So
It
I haven't
was.
played,
Thanks for
haven't
hosting,
DM'd
partner.
in a while, so now he's inspired me, and I think I'm gonna whip out my book full of ideas as well, and maybe start world building.
I always say start with one place.
Oh, I have the place. I
Oh.
just never expanded it. But like I said, I was inspired by Savage Worlds, like when I was reading it like a couple weeks ago. And I was like, damn, I could do like this cool private exterminator, hell of a boss kind of thing in a utopian society. It's like I could probably play into that.
All right, we're gonna raid over to our friend Solid 10, who's actually playing in a Daggerheart
They're
game.
still running.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw
Damn.
them on my sidebar. I was like, damn, that's a long time. I had a lot of fun.